Hello, um, my name is Jimson. I'm a bit tired today. Yeah, just I'm tired. Not feeling too great. I'm a bit behind on some assignments, school, and internships, so I'm not feeling the best right now. Um, this video is about relationships and friendships. So last week, I was it last week or 2 weeks ago? I don't remember. I'm so sorry for all the bodily sounds. Like, just I was gonna say I just woke up, which is not true. I've been awake since 8-ish. So about the past 2 hours. It's about 10 o'clock right now. I just finished doing a mini workout, so I think my body is clearing a little bit. I'm always congested, so that's why that's there. But last week, 2 weeks ago, I don't remember when, I recorded kind of like an intro video to the type of videos that I will be making. The four main topics were Christian theology, economics, business, and finance, science and metaphysics, or science and philosophy, and relationships. And I've done videos on the first three topics. And I haven't done a video on relationships yet. And I think that's just because where I'm at in my life currently, a lot of the things that have transpired in the past 6 months, year, almost 2 years, have been very, I think, sensitive and close to home when it comes to the topic of relationships. There's still a lot that I am processing, that I need to process. A lot of hurt and disappointment that I have experienced. And I think because of that, I have not been inclined to want to come on here and make a video about relationships. Just because, like, yeah, I'm processing a lot in terms of things that have happened, things that have hurt me, disappointed me, but also just like what it not what it is that I want, because I think I'm very clear on what it is that I want, but just, I guess, the nature of what I want and how I show up in relationships, and just, yeah, a lot of things I've experienced have caused me to question a lot. And I think that's just I was gonna say it's sad. I think it's just part of life and growing up, but I'd say this in most of my videos. I'm a very relational person. I love people. I love relationships. I love intimacy. I love growth. I love being challenged and sharpened and really getting to see people and being vulnerable and just having a space to be and to grow. And everything that I do in my life is oriented towards people or relationships in one form or another. They are like up there in priority for me. So just all the things that I've experienced in the last year that have made me, I think, question that value, not for myself, but I think the revelation of the fact that other people don't value it to the same extent that I do. Um, and just questioning, like, if the level to which I value it is even needed, or I guess valuable to other people. Talking about it is like bringing up the feelings. I haven't had a space to really like process it or talk about it, but um yeah, I just, so that's kind of why I haven't felt like I could talk about it. The other things I've talked about, I've been pretty confident in talking about them, even if I'm like still figuring it out. I'm confident in like sharing my figuring it out publicly online. But this topic is just, it's something that's very close to my heart. And because it is wrapped up in a lot of, it's less heady than all the other ones. It's very personal. um and I have like my heart, soul, and spirit in it. It's just been a bit harder to feel like I can get on here and make a video about relationships. So, but it, like I said, because it is like top priority in my life after knowing and being close to God. I think I'm doing a disservice to myself and the content that I put out if I don't talk about it, even while I'm in the figuring it out and the questioning and rethinking and healing and all that other stuff. So I have some things on here that I want to talk about, but I don't know if I'm going, we'll just kind of like see where this goes. Um, yeah, we'll see where this goes. Okay, relationships. Why? Oh, one other thing I want to say. So I'm on a mission to record every day for a month. So far in the last, I genuinely don't know when I started this thing, but all I know is that I've missed 3 days. One at the very beginning when I decided to do this because I hadn't fully like decided to do it. It's Tuesday now, so this past Saturday, just because I was busy the whole day and I didn't really have a lot of time to think and plan about a video. Thankfully Sunday I did record, but I was recording in transit. I did it yesterday because again I was busy the whole day. I was out of town Sunday. I got back at like 1:30 Monday, like Monday midnight. I had to wake up and be in the office by 9:30, and then in transit to and from my internship, I was on the phone with friends. So that would have been a time where I would have recorded, but I was talking to some friends about relationships actually. And then after I got off the phone when I came home, I was exhausted and I also had homework to do, so I just didn't get it done. But I'm saying that to say, sometimes like before when I started, I was like, oh, I'm so excited to record videos and all this stuff. And now I'm at a point where it's like I'm tired. I'm not feeling the best about myself. It's a topic that I'm kind of weary about talking about publicly. And it's like still showing up to the decision that I made to record every day or record consistently. Again, when I have the ability to, given the circumstances. So yeah, this is just one of those days where I may have a little less energy than I normally do. But here we go. Let's talk about people, relationships. So why are relationships important to me? Why do I love people so much? Because I am a people. Because I'm a people. I think I've always been a people person. Um, yeah, I mean, you'd have to ask my parents from like when I was a kid. But I think I've always loved being around people. Um, this is the same thing, but I've always enjoyed the presence of people. I've always wanted to be connected to people to get to know them. I don't know how unique that is to me. I feel like that's a baseline human desire. And then I think as you get older, you start to experience things that make you question that desire and whether or not you can actually get it, whether that's from your relationships in your family or friendships, school, community, or whatever. You just experience little things that make you start to question if this is actually a viable option and if this desire is worth holding on to. But I think for me, I held on to it. I think it's also easy when you grow up in like social environments like school. You're around people all the time. So it's not necessarily something that you actively have to think about because you're just around it. School and then church as well. I think I started thinking about it a lot more intentionally when I got into high school and after I discovered philosophy. And not just like about philosophy, but it connects. So when I discovered philosophy, I just started thinking more deeply about things. And I also started thinking more deeply about relationships and what I want out of my relationships in high school. And again, I am a very growth oriented person. I don't know when it started, but when I can, at least the earliest I can pinpoint it is high school. Maybe actually middle school, probably as well. I was an interesting character in middle school. I was very raw. We're just raw. I was blunt. I said what it was. Like I didn't see no reason for beating around the bush. If you said you wanted to do something and you weren't doing it, I was gonna do it for you. I wish I could meet middle school me. because she was amazing, genuinely. Like she was amazing. Um, anyways, so yeah, I'm a very growth oriented person. So when I'm thinking about like the types of people that I want in my life and the types of relationships that I want to be a part of, I'm something that's always at the forefront of my mind is, are these people going to help me grow, and are these people that I can also help grow at the same time? And I just felt like I didn't necessarily have like those types of people in my life. But I think because I was in high school, it wasn't like not that it wasn't as important, because it was important, but it wasn't, I think, as consequential as probably it is now as an adult. And so I was still able to have a lot of fun with the people that I was around, especially in boarding school. We were around each other all the time. It was fun. We had a good time. Kids should have a good time. So yeah, we had a good time. But it was always like always in the back of my mind that like I can't have the types of conversations I want to have with these people. We're not like talking about the types of things that I feel like we should be talking about, or when situations come up, we're not approaching them in the way that I think we should be approaching them. Um, and it was those little things that I started to notice that kind of made me, I don't think hesitant is the right word, but I was very to myself when it came to certain things. Especially if I was going through something, I was to myself because I didn't really trust people to help me or to meet me where I was, to care about the things that I cared about. And so that was high school. And then I got to college and I joined a campus ministry where everybody, most everybody, the people I ended up being close with, were very intentional about living like Jesus. And like I said, top of my priority list is knowing God and getting to know Him more. And so I finally found those types of relationships where it's like we're having the types of conversations that I want to have, and we're being intentional about the types of things that we're doing. And because we're growth oriented, we're oriented towards becoming something very intentionally. And that was the first time in my life where I felt like I experienced that those relationships that I wanted. And it was transformative. Like being being in constant community and contact and interaction with people like that genuinely like changes you. Like there's a type of interaction that happens when you're, how do I explain it? So in statistics or regressions, there's, you can have like a strictly linear relationship where it's like one factor affects another, like one to one, and you can see like how that, like what that effect is. And then there's this thing called an interaction term, where there are two factors and you can't separate how one affects another because they're just like in intimately is not the word, but we'll just use it, intimately tied to one another. And I think that's kind of like what happens when you're with people who are oriented towards the same thing as you, is you can't separate how you affect them from how they affect you. Like there's this interaction term that kind of just makes this, I don't know, beautiful dance and cycle of relationship and transformation and growth and love and enjoyment. And I experienced that in my close friendships in undergrad. And I think coming back to the philosophy opened my mind. One thing that happened in undergrad was I shut off my philosophical mind because I had become nihilistic my freshman year. And I was coming out of it my sophomore year. And I was afraid to think again. I'm naturally a thinker, but I oriented that thought process towards healing from certain things, overcoming certain struggles that I have, growing in relationships, and going deeper in my relationship with God. So I didn't do a lot of like philosophical or metaphysical exploration or like big picture, what is the world type of explanation. It was very personal in the relationships that I was invested in. And I grew a lot because of that. But after graduation, I came home and I rediscovered that I'm philosophical and that I really enjoy like thinking about things in this big picture way. And I started to feel like that disconnect again in some of my, excuse me, in some of my relationships. Some of them from undergrad, and then also some relationships that I developed when I came back home. And how do I explain like this transition? So this time, the difficulty that I was feeling was, is difficulty the right word? The disconnect that I was feeling was now not just about, okay, like, do I have people that, um, I think it was still like an alignment thing because of the level and the depth to which I think about things and how that affects how I see the world and then how that affects how I move in the world. Um, it can be hard to find people who are seeing things the same way that I see them. And because my perspective and my worldview is very near and dear to me because it genuinely affects how I interpret everything and how I make decisions, there can be this disconnect and connecting with people who just don't see the world like the same way that you do. And I started to notice that. And it started making me feel very isolated, on top of other things that were leading me to be isolated in relationship with God and stuff. But um, beyond see, I don't have notes. I have notes for another thing, but not for this. So I think I've been in that space for a while since graduation, so about 2 years, where okay, I've rediscovered this philosophical side of myself. And I'm trying to figure out how to balance it with desires for intimacy and closeness that I have in relationships. I think because one thing about vulnerability is when you open yourself up to someone, you have a desire for them to see you and for them to understand and engage with that thing. But I think because I approach life a bit differently than other people, it can make that desire like left flat and not reached to the level that I would want it to be reached. And so then I'm left like, who can I connect with to the level that I want to? Still having these friendships that I have from undergrad and appreciating them and appreciating them for the ways in which that we still do connect and that we're still aligned. But I think rediscovering this part of myself that was there, it was just dormant. Um, yeah, rediscovering this part and kind of allowing it to come back up and to just manifest in my life. It's like, okay, I'm like that person that was there in undergrad, she's still there, but she looks and thinks and acts a bit differently than she did. And I think that can make relating in the same way that I did when I was an undergrad a little bit difficult because I'm like, there's this other very important part of how I see the world that I'm not letting go of it this time. I let go of it in undergrad. I don't feel comfortable letting go of it now. And so like it's put me in this place of like, okay, I'm I'm not gonna say I'm different, but I'm more aware of all that is in me and allowing that to affect how I move in the world. How does this determine how I interact with people? And that's a place that I've been in for a very long time, and I don't know if I will ever find an answer, honestly. I genuinely like don't know. But I think one thing that I have recently, like in the past week, because my mental health has not been the best past 6 months, a year, 2 years. Um, and so it's just been really hard for me to think, which is like Ure. If Ure can't think, am I even alive? So yeah, it's just been really hard for me to like just think and have like clarity on certain things. Um, one of them being friendships and relationships. So as my mental health is stabilizing a bit, I've been able to think a little bit more clearly about things and thinking about relationships. And one of the things that I've come to, I think, realize, accept, I don't know, is relationships serve different functions, which I've just never liked that notion. I've never liked it. Why have I not liked it? Because I have a desire for intimacy and to be really like seen by somebody else and to really see somebody else and it be like compatible with one another and we just again then that whole interaction thing starts happening. I have a very big desire for that. And I don't think that's something that's just relegated to romantic relationships. I mean, even people in romantic relationships don't even be experiencing it most of the time. I think it's something that can be experienced in intentional friendships as well. And so, this whole idea that different relationships serve different purposes in your life, I don't like that. Like, I just don't like it. And yeah, I can make multiple videos about this, and maybe I will. I not maybe I definitely will, and they'll probably be more structured than they are right now. This is literally just like stream of consciousness. But yeah, different relationships serve different purposes in life, and you connect with people based off of different things, and they stay in your life based off of different things. And I think the key that I'm learning is being aware of what it is that I need in my life to just feel like myself and to feel like I'm moving in a good direction. And being aware that the relationships that I currently have in my life may not be able to give that to me. And not putting that pressure and weight on them because the relationship will crumble. Speaking from experience, the relationship will crumble if you put pressure where it cannot be born. I think born is the right word, or bared. If you put pressure or weight where it cannot be born, bared, I'll just use bared, where it cannot be bared, it where you put it will falter under the pressure. And I think that just comes from like ignorance, not realizing that this place or this thing cannot bear the weight that you're trying to put on it and not knowing where else to turn, because I think it's also a thing of you're looking for somewhere to put this weight and this pressure because this is something that you actually need in your life. Even if you're not aware of the thing that it is that you need, you're realizing that there's something missing and you're looking for somewhere your I am looking for somewhere to put it so that I can find rest and so that I can relax and trust. And looking for this place and putting it in places that can't hold it up is detrimental for all parties involved. Me, the other person, the thing I am putting on it, the relationship, it's just detrimental for all parties involved. So I think just becoming more intentional about where I put certain weights in my life and who I can trust with those things and who I can rely on. And yeah, I think that it feels like, I'm not going to say it is fragmentation, but it feels like fragmenting my life amongst different areas and different people. And because I'm a very integrated person, I would like to be able to show up to at least one place in my life. I mean, like a couple, but at least one place in my life where I feel like I can show up fully and for all of it to be desired and accepted and held and nurtured and refined and all this stuff. Christians will say that place is your relationship with God, and I don't necessarily disagree. I don't disagree. My relationship with God has been an interesting thing in the past couple of years, and I'm very aware that half the things I went through in the past couple of years is because I was not in a good place with my relationship with God. So I'm aware of that, and I'm being more intentional about going back to that place and putting the weight there because it can bear it. But I don't, something in me just doesn't like the idea that there is not a human being that can do this thing with me. Yeah, something in me just does not like that. I refuse to accept that. Even if I never meet that human being on this side of life, I reject the idea that I like that it's not possible, because I think one, because there are people who have had that experience where they meet someone and they can genuinely like just show up and that other person can bear the weight of who they are, and vice versa. And so, yeah, I just reject that idea. And I'm still in discovery, in search of whoever that person is, wherever they exist. Um, but I think I've also come to a conclusion that I may or may not meet that person on this side of life. And being content in my relationship with God, which I genuinely feel like at some point I had gotten to that place, but so many things happen. So it's like I'm crawling back to that place. But yeah, so I guess this endeavor that maybe talking about relationships is going to be part of it is going to be about like balancing the needs, the desires that we have with the current LOL economics, balancing the needs and desires that we have with our current resources to live them out. Those resources being human beings, and other people, and yeah, literally economics. How do we distribute it, or if we don't have it, how do we go about finding where we can have those desires and those needs met? What other things? Going to be talking a lot about love. Oh, my friend is calling me. I'll call her back. But yeah, we're gonna be talking a lot about love and um self-sacrifice because I follow Jesus and I love him and I think he is the best representation that human beings have of relationship and love. And yeah, that's my foundation for relationships. But the key to love and to self-sacrifice is security. You need to be secure to love well. And that security comes from God. There's literally no other place. If you experience that security in another human being, that's just God manifesting through them. So yeah, using Jesus as the template for how we approach relationships and the sheer joy and peace that is found in love and self-sacrifice, as crazy as it might sound, especially in our modern culture and being a Gen Z in America. But yeah, there's an immense amount of joy and peace to be found in putting and making your life an object for other people. Um, yeah, so we'll just be exploring that as I'm still figuring these things out, um, resurrecting things that have died in me over the past 2 years, just because of all the hurts and disappointments that I've experienced. And hopefully, this will be healing for me and helpful for you. But yeah, thanks for stopping by. Until the next one.